Now, of course, that's just easier said than done, but something that was asked of both Kirby Smart and Nick Saban here on Monday, just the fact that this not the first time we're going to see a rematch in a championship type game like this. Of course, the one that comes to all SEC fans' mind, LSU Auburn in the championship several years ago. Alabama and Georgia did meet in the national championship, of course. What was that, 2017? But they did not meet in the SEC championship. That was Georgia and Auburn that met that year in the SEC championship. So it's very unique that 2 out of 3 games here we're getting the same teams. I don't know that that's ever been done before. Well, not now that Florida State a couple of years, that was so long ago though. That was in the 90s. But can you really scheme up anything different? I mean, you kind of are who you are at this point. There's not going to be a ton of adjustments. So this game is really going to come down to just executing better. And who was it after the SEC championship game that was, I don't want to say getting thrown under the bus, but the guy that was getting called out more than anyone else? Stetson Bennett. And we don't normally have player comments on this show because generally, I gotta be honest, the players, they don't give you much, and I find it kind of boring and not very enlightening. But Stetson Bennett also met with the media here on Monday with so much pressure on his shoulders. If Georgia is going to win the national championship, they are going to need him to have a performance like he had against the Michigan Wolverines, throwing for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He cannot be having multiple turnovers like he did in the SEC championship game. Got outclassed by Bryce Young. And this is something not only Stetson Bennett, but I thought this was the most insightful comments. We had about 2 hours of press conferences here between the head coaches and the players. But Stetson Bennett revealed that some of his teammates really took it personally that Michigan and their offensive line was so touted. The Joe Moore Award, that's the award that's given to the nation's best offensive line. Well, hell, Georgia Bulldogs got pissed off about that. The offensive lineman got pissed off. If you haven't seen the clip by now, Sawyer just making Adrian Hutchinson the Heisman runner-up. I mean, he looked like a rag doll. The other elite defensive lineman Michigan had didn't register a single stat against the Bulldogs. I mean, Georgia's offensive line looked like the Joe Moore Award winners in that matchup. So how is that going to translate with Georgia's defense to Stetson Bennett taking things personally? Let's kick it over to Stetson Bennett.
One of the things that we saw against Michigan was an incredible blocking scheme on the edge that really freed guys up. What was practice like in that offensive week leading up that really made that crisp for you guys that opened up the offense?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, we can't do anything on either side of the ball if we don't win up front. I mean, that's the start of football. It always has been. It always will be. And we knew that they had those 2 guys on the edge, and we knew that they were going to be coming from my head. And, Jamari and Warren and all the other guys inside, they took a challenge. They kind of, felt slighted a bit by the Joe Moore Award going to Michigan. And they knew what everybody was writing and what everybody was saying, that, they would, those 2 guys would ruin the game for us. And, they took it as a personal challenge, and they were focused and locked in the whole week. And they played their butts off.
So it's just something to keep in mind. I know, and we'll get to this in just a minute with Nick Saban's comments. I know the Georgia Bulldogs currently listed as the favorite in Vegas, but I got to be honest, everywhere I'm seeing, everybody's saying, Nick Saban loved that. Bet on Nick. I'm not seeing anybody saying, well, I'm taking Georgia in the points. Everybody's taking Alabama in the +3 at this point in time. You talk about rat poison. I think it's going to go the other way. It's going to be the Georgia Bulldogs that are going to be hearing for a week about how it's a joke that they're favored against a team that just whipped them just a couple weeks ago here on a neutral field in the SEC championship game. How does that inspire confidence and get these guys fired up for the week ahead leading up to the national championship? We'll see. But hey, they had to hear all the talk about Michigan, and we saw how that played out on the field. Now we'll see how it translates against Alabama at round 2. But those weren't the only Stetson Bennett comments that were pretty good. these ones are just as good on recruiting and the stars and how much they factor in. Stetson Bennett was asked about that and the 5 stars and all that. And of course, he cannot relate to being a 5-star, the former walk-on here. Fantastic comments.
Coaches say all the time that recruiting stars or your recruiting ranking doesn't matter when you show up. But from a player perspective, how, I guess, aware are you of that, and how, if at all, does it, factor into, hey, I should be playing earlier, or I should be playing over this guy?
Well, I can't speak to the 5 stars in the room. I wasn't one. I mean, yeah, coaches say that, but it's like, those guys are going to get every opportunity to fail before, a walk-on gets an opportunity to succeed. I put it that way. Which is, it's just business. It's, if you recruit all these 5 stars and then you play walk-ons over every single one of them, who's to say the next 5 star is not going to see that and not come here? And usually 5 stars are better than walk-ons. That's typically how it goes. But I don't know. I think our team does a good job of, our players do a good job of not really worrying about 5-star who, this and that when you walk in the door. Because, all that stuff's over. It's wiped out. I don't know who our 5 stars are from this last class. I don't know any recruiting. I know we did well, like we typically do, because our staff does a great job, but I don't know who was ranked where, because I really don't care. And I'll tell you, every single senior on this team feels the same way. So I'm sure the coaches are aware, and every single media person in the entire universe is aware. But no, the players are not aware.
Man, that may be the quote of the year right there. Walk-ons, you may never get a chance if those 5 stars don't fail. And, I don't think it's fair to say he's calling out JT Daniels or anybody with these comments, but I think he's just speaking the truth, where Stetson Bennett never gets a chance unless, a Jamie Newman, I know he's not necessarily a touted prospect, but if he leaves, JT Daniels limited last season, Stetson Bennett, a guy like him, maybe never even gets his shot. So he's making the most of it. And all of a sudden, if Georgia finds a way to win the national championship, hell, they may have a statue of old Stetson here on campus as Georgia's Rudy in the in the years and years to come. And these comments here are going to be immortalized like old Tim Tebow's down there in Gainesville. There are going to be some plaques down there in Athens, if I had to guess.